Well, as some of you may know, during the year you turn 70 and a half years old, you got to begin paying taxes on a certain portion of your tax-deferred retirement accounts. These are known as your required minimum distributions, or RMDs for short, and the penalty for not distributing at least the minimum, it's a big one. It's 50% of the shortfall. So, since you're obliged by tax law to remove this money from its pre-tax status and move it into the post-tax world, like your personal accounts, right? The question is when should you consider taking it? Well, I can argue either way. Earlier in the year or later in the year, but generally speaking, if you don't need the money and are only taking the distribution because Uncle Sam says so, it's potentially more beneficial to do it in the early part of the calendar year than later on. But you're probably asking why? I mean, why not postpone it until as late as possible? Well, because waiting to take the distribution offers no real advantage. The amount you're required to take out is based on the previous year's ending balance. I mean, it's a done deal. And it's based on the age you attain this year. Let's say, for example, that someone has a $10,000 required minimum distribution for this year. Where would they prefer to have the future growth occur? In their personal account or in their IRA? If the growth happens to be in their personal account and their $10,000 grew somehow to $12,000 during the year, that $2,000 of growth is sitting unsold in their personal account. No taxes have to be paid yet. If their heirs inherit it, that growth receives a step up in basis, and they won't pay any taxes on it either if they sell it immediately. But if they left it in the IRA all year, and if it grew there, and they took the $10,000 RMD at the end of the year, the $2,000 of growth would become part of the balance for next year's RMD, making the RMD higher, and the tax treatment, because that $2,000 remains inside that tax-deferred account, it's ordinary income instead of lower capital gains tax rate in the other example. If it's passed on to their heirs in the future, it'll also be taxed to them at ordinary income rates instead of getting that whole step up in tax basis thing I talked about and potentially being tax-free. But what if the investment instead went down in value, say to $8,000? Well, if it's in a personal account, that individual can sell that security and use the $2,000 capital loss against other income, even against ordinary income up to $3,000. This couldn't be done if the money had stayed in that tax-deferred account. One more reason to take the RMD early? So you won't forget about it. Like I said before, the penalties are 50% of the shortfall, and that's something you absolutely at all costs want to avoid. So taking it earlier in the year will eliminate that risk.